Hi, my name's Elisa Foster. I'm a mom of two, one with extra special needs. Welcome to my podcast, Happy and Independent, where I share weekly conversations with my network of parents, professionals, and experts from around the world. So let's change the world, one empowered, confident advocate at a time. Hey friends, it's Elisa here, and I have my friend Brenda, and we are going to talk today about all things parenting, special needs, and advocacy, because she is absolutely a super mom when it comes to that. So Brenda, you want to say hello?
Hi, everybody.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So, as Lisa said, my name is Brenda. I am the proud mom of two boys. I've got an older son, Chase, who's 14, and a younger son, McClain, who is 12. And my younger son, McClain, has significant cerebral palsy and is also hearing impaired. So that is, so those two obviously brought me into the world of parenting. McClain brought me into the world of special needs parenting. So I think that's why I'm here today.
I hope so. All right. So tell me a little bit about McClain. You have an interesting story about how this all started and your journey. You didn't mean to be an advocate.
No. So, So when my older son was about 13 or 14 months old, I thought, this is fun. Let's do this again. And so we did, and found out we were pregnant with identical twin boys. And which was overwhelming and exciting both at the same time. Pregnancy was going fantastic. I was worried about having three boys under the age of 2. And then somewhere around 29 weeks, something happened in utero. It's a condition known as twin-to-twin transfusion. Mm-hmm. And what happens is one twin receives too much blood. There's a number of complications. And so unfortunately, one of our sons passed away in utero, and McClain is our surviving twin. So he was born at 29 weeks and 5 days. And we thought that that would be the end of that piece, that he would, go to the NICU, he would grow, he would, feed, he would get bigger.
Everything
right?
would go back the way it was
100%.
before. You just now had 2 kids, had to
Absolutely.
recover from losing one.
Absolutely.
On you go.
Absolutely. So we thought, okay, he's premature. They've got a handle on this. And then when he was about somewhere between 3 to 5 days old, he developed jaundice, which I'm sure numerous people are aware of. Jaundice is a fairly common condition.
I think Andy actually had it.
Okay.
Or they were checking him for it at the beginning.
Yeah. So it's really, really common. It's common in newborns, and it's especially common in premature babies. And so he developed jaundice, and it's easily treatable. And essentially what it is that the body, just because it's an immature system, they're just not able to break down the bilirubin in the blood and get that out. So they put them under phototherapy. They put the little sunglasses on them, and they put them under the sun tanning bed for a couple of days, and essentially breaks down what it needs to. It gets it out of the body, and off we go. When that's not treated, it actually becomes neurotoxic, and it can cause brain damage, which is what happened to McClain. So unfortunately for McClain, he was not treated for jaundice, which resulted in his brain damage and his hearing impairment. And the crazy part about it was, although he was in a level 3 neonatal unit, which you would expect would be top notch,
absolutely,
the protocols that they were using were significantly out of date. And so they actually didn't have the adequate protocols to treat him for the jaundice that he had. And so
we had these side effects.
And so you had said earlier about what sort of brought me in an unnatural advocacy perspective. And it really started right in the NICU. You get there, you've got this baby, it's a whole new world. You have no idea what's going on.
You have professionals coming in and out of the room. They have all these qualifications. They're not paying attention to mom.
Right.
They're touching and prodding baby. Mm-hmm. And I think most people quite often feel very overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. And I think you can have different reactions, right? You can either be very upset because of that, and or a lot of people shut down, or you find your voice. And I think you found your voice.
I did, and it's funny because that was probably my first experience with another advocate, if you will. So there was a mom that sat across from me, in the NICU, and she'd been there, she was a veteran, maybe 2 weeks longer than I had been there.
All you have to be is 10% farther along than someone else to be able to support them.
Absolutely. And she did. And she said, you have every right to, review his charts and be here for rounds and to ask the questions. And once I sort of felt that validation that it was okay to go ahead and be his voice, that's really what started it. And so then, the NICU journey ends and this entirely different journey begins. And I had no idea at that time that I was going to need to advocate for him and be his voice as much as I have had to be.
Well, and to be honest, you didn't just advocate for McClain.
No.
You took it one step farther,
Yeah.
which is, for me, one of the biggest things that I love when I see you, because you and I just met today in person for the first time. We have a very good friend in common.
We do.
And, but I think the reason that we just clicked is because we believe in not just advocating for our family, but we believe in advocating for all the other voices.
Right.
So tell me a little bit you don't have to get into too many of the details, but what happened for your next step to make sure that other people didn't experience what McClain and your family did?
So, McLean is discharged from the NICU and we think, okay, he needs a little bit of catching up to do. He's obviously been through a pretty traumatic event for a new baby. But, a second time mom, things are not clicking, that gut is just saying something's not jiving here. And so I went about trying to figure out what had transpired. And, when we were given the diagnosis of cerebral palsy, with some examples of how that might have happened, it just didn't sit well with me.
Yeah.
And so I did a little bit of digging and attended some conferences and reached out to other parents and reached out to experts and asked a ton of questions. And we realized at that time that the condition he had was known as Kernicterus. That's what results from this untreated jaundice.
Okay.
And it is 100% preventable. And so I thought, well, if this is 100% preventable, why wasn't it prevented?
Yeah.
Right? And so when he was just shy of 2 years old, we pursued legal action against the hospital where this had occurred. And so there was two pieces to that. So the piece that you're referencing, which for me was the largest triumph, as a result of our legal action, they changed all of their protocols and their guidelines. And so, that happened a couple of years in. And, for us, that was such a huge win. We obviously were hoping the rest came to resolution, that, that he would have some resources for the rest of his life.
Well, because it's never ending.
It's never ending. And, he is significantly affected physically.
Absolutely.
But, I remember being just as emotional when we found out that they had updated their protocols and guidelines as I had been at the end of the full resolution.
Absolutely.
Because we just thought, okay, there will not be, knock on wood, another family that will go through what we have gone through needlessly.
Absolutely.
That was a really big piece, and that has spiraled a little bit. We've now seen other hospitals that are also lacking in their updated guidelines and protocols, and so
Isn't that crazy? Because you think McClain is now 12.
Yeah.
And so you started that legal action 10 years ago, and you are still seeing people. And we think in Canada, we are so fortunate for so much for healthcare.
Yeah.
And yet there's these children being left behind and families being affected for a lifetime.
Yeah. What was really interesting about it is that when we were searching out this diagnosis, there was a number of physicians who weren't actually able to accurately diagnose him because they don't see it, because it doesn't happen here. And so we stumbled upon a neurologist out of another hospital who actually was, it was from India.
So he
was familiar with it because it happens a lot in third world countries. And the minute he saw him, he said, this boy has Kernicterus. And I know because I see this in the clinics that I work in. And, how did this happen here? And I still find that when I tell that story, every time we're admitted to a hospital, every time anybody's around him, and we speak about this, they can't believe it because it shouldn't be happening today.
No.
So, so
your journey's not over.
So my journey is not over, but, and I'm sad. I every time someone approaches me with a suspicion that this has happened to their child and we need to take a look at that, it breaks my heart every time over and over again.
Absolutely. Because like you said, it was 100%.
Yeah. Preventable. Yeah. So.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about McClain.
Yes.
Because this is what I know about him.
Yeah.
He's in a rock band.
Yes.
He is surrounded by some amazing friends. My buddy Keegan is a really good friend of his.
Absolutely.
So tell me about him and his rock band.
So his rock band is called the Bam Bams.
I love it.
So they've been together for a number of years. They're essentially another great group. kids that also have disabilities. And so he's got his friend Kieran and Shay, who both have cerebral palsy, and his friend Hayden, who has spina bifida. And they came together a number of years ago. And there's a great guy named Bill Murray, not the actor. One day. Who had, he's really big into music therapy.
Yeah.
He was in a rock band, and he said, I just believe that every kid should have a chance to be in a garage band.
I love it.
Yeah. And so he brought them together. It became our Friday night thing. So the kids do their rock band piece. The moms drink their wine. It's become, something we both look forward to on Friday nights. Yeah. They play venues. They play bars.
I've seen some of their stuff getting posted on Facebook,
it's
actually.
Pretty awesome. And, and it's just, they write their own music sometimes. And, it's pretty neat. It's, and it's very indicative of McClain's personality. We always call him a rock star, right? So he really is.
He has a lot of charisma. Just looking at the pictures and his videos, like he's very charismatic.
He is. Yeah. He's, that smile is a killer. And that's what we hear the most often about him. Is that smile. There's just something about that smile. It's just, it's heartwarming. It's soul searching. There's just something super special about him.
He's present. He's there.
He really
That's
is.
His personality.
He really
beyond
is.
Everything else.
And yet what's funny, because that was the first milestone I worried about, was the smile. The first thing that I looked for, when I was tracking things, was, why isn't he smiling yet? Why isn't he smiling yet?
Yeah.
And then once he did, that was, so it's interesting to me that probably his strongest piece that people notice about him was the one I worried about the most. And that's what he's known for now, is that smile. So
amazing. And actually, for a lot of people who have never seen McClain or don't know who he is, just understand this kid's in a rock band.
Yeah.
And he's also in a wheelchair, right?
Yeah.
So this is what I love, is that you guys approach it where nothing phases you.
No.
I think you kind of approach it with a why not, let's try.
Yeah. Yeah. We've, and I remember when I remember, and I don't mean to laugh about it, but.
Oh, we're allowed to laugh.
Right.
I think as special needs moms, I think it's just normal that you have a little bit of a skewed sense of humor.
You do.
You have to. It's Survivor.
It really is. So I remember when he received his official CP diagnosis, and keep in mind that, I knew, I'm sometimes a smart cookie. So I had sort of figured out that something was going on. But when we got the official diagnosis, I spent my obligatory week in bed and cried and
absolutely
and researched it and sent people emails about what he had. And I remember saying to my husband, I said, what about hockey? And he's not going to be a hockey player, and he's not going to do this. And I remember my husband saying, well, maybe he'll be the smart one. Maybe he'll be the, and that was his, but, when we laugh now about it, but, that's the first place my mind went, as I think all parents do, when they are faced with a special needs situation, is all the things they're not going to do.
Absolutely.
And that is a big part of our life.
I think it's a disservice if you don't admit that happens.
You have to. It affects how we travel.
Yeah.
It affects the things that we do. It affects where we go. It affects the house we live in. It affects so many things.
Our cost, our support.
Everything. Our car.
Well, and I think so. Andy, my son, and McClain are the exact same age. And so most of my friends who have a child in grade 7, they can start leaving them on their own.
100%.
Well, that's not an option for us.
That is not an option for us. And, and this poor kid, like I said to him tonight, I said, Dad's got hockey with Chase. Mom's got this meeting I can't miss. So you're coming along to this meeting.
Yeah.
And that's just the reality of it. And, you're right. That's, and I think that's what I try to explain to people is you get to a point in your parenting, right? Even, when I look at Chase, right? You're excited when they can turn on the TV by themselves. They can pour that cereal by themselves. McClain needs 24/7.
Yeah.
And there isn't an opportunity to just say, you know what, buddy, hang here. Mom's going to whip up to, Shoppers for a minute. It's not an option. And yet he wants that.
Of course he does.
So he keeps saying, I'm 12.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead. You go. I'm thinking, oh boy. Now again, the skewed sense of humor. I think, well, he's not going to start anything on fire.
No, right?
He's not going to have a party. Well, he might.
Actually, no. I kind of feel like he might. He is a rock star, he might have a party.
He might, but but yeah. So you can joke about it, but it's you're right. You know it.
It changes.
It does.
And I think that that's something that you have to accept and you have to be honest about. I think the difference is, do you stay in that place?
Right.
Or do you have the resilience or the ability to reset to move forward?
Yeah.
Because I know in our 12 years, majority of the time I'm optimistic.
Yeah.
And But there's definitely times where, and it'll come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I get hit with something and it just overwhelms me, that sense of how different our life is. But I'm not going to live there forever because then I'm going to miss out on the life we have. And I mean, I know this summer we went on a 3-week road trip camping and he hiked.
Yeah.
And we did stuff that we never would have even thought possible. And now we did. Yeah. So if you stay in that spot, you miss out on so much, which is, I think, where we agree, right? Yeah. You have to keep moving forward.
You do. And, we allow ourselves to mourn for it. And we allow ourselves to be upset. Yeah. And I get angry, quite frequently at, just the things that happen. We went out on Sunday night with, for wings and the Leaf game with a bunch of friends, and the restaurant downstairs had an arcade and the kids wanted to go down. Well, it wasn't accessible.
Yeah, you can't go.
So, we didn't. It feels horrible. We didn't tell them that was downstairs, but you think, man, like I can't even go out, for wings in the Leaf game and have the kids hang out. But then you make a conscious decision to say, well, we won't go back there again, but what can we do? So we let them have the brownie sundae. And, and we
Andy's going to want to hang out with you guys.
He is very much, yes.
So
yes.
It's going to be like all over that.
We overcompensate for sure. But again, like you said, it has opened up opportunities for us as a family, for McClain. This kid has had a good go. Yeah. This kid has done things that I, didn't do at his age. He's done things that our family would never have been a part of, because you have to look at things in a different lens. Yeah. So were we a cruising family? Probably, I don't know. I'd never been on a cruise. We cruise now because it's easy for McClain. It's accessible. Yep. I love it. We would probably not have done that before. You figure it out. You figure it out.
Yeah, you do. Okay, let's go back to looking at things through a different lens, because I think the first time I actually knew a little bit more about you was reading articles about what you guys did with the hockey arenas.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So let's go back to being a hockey mom.
Yeah. So, yeah. And this is, you had mentioned before about, some of the things that I do for McClain. Yeah. But, a lot of the things I do, from a patient and family advocate, the committees I sit on, the research initiatives I participate in, the reality is that, McClain is probably not going to directly benefit from those efforts.
We've done that a lot with Andy.
Absolutely. Too. But you're like, you know what? This is either a right that has to be wronged, or this is an issue that needs to be addressed, or a gap that has to be identified. You have to. And so... You said, hockey mom, my husband coaches, Chase plays. It's a huge part of our life, as any hockey parent knows. So, you can imagine now you're carting McClain to these arenas. Some of them are old. Some of them are new. Some of them are accessible. Some of them are great. Some of them are not so great. So we've come to sort of expect that. But where it got disappointing was that locally, where we live in Burlington, there was an arena that, for whatever reason, we happened to be scheduled to play at a lot. And from a technical perspective, was it accessible? Yeah, you could get in the doors.
Of course, because it's a city building, so it technically follows the minimum.
Absolutely. If you want to watch a game from a wheelchair, that wasn't possible. There was no way to get...
because people in wheelchairs don't want to watch hockey.
They don't want to watch hockey.
No, that's awful.
They don't. And so there was no platform there was no raised platform for them to view it from. There was no way to get them up into the stands to watch that.
Wow.
And so, I sort of said to my husband, listen, I'm tapped out here. Yeah. This is hockey. This is your jam. I need you to fix this. So he starts the conversation, and, he'll kill me. But I sat back with the arms folded thinking I'm going to have to step in at some point. But he started with our local hockey association, who said, well, no problem. We'll reach out to the city for you. And, the response that came back was, great news. We won't schedule you to play there anymore.
Oh, my goodness. So I'm not even sure I can respond to that, actually. No. And I hope whoever sent that email has had a little bit of I can't even talk about that.
I know. So that was their solution. So I said, okay, so that's fine. But I said, okay, so that eliminates, McClain not having to go there and do that. I said, so what happens to the grandparents of kids on other teams? What happens to that, fellow hockey player who breaks their leg? That year that I'm referencing, we had 2 kids out, both with one with a broken ankle, one with a broken leg, and we had a grandparent recovering from hip surgery. So so there was 4 wheelchairs really at any given time at any of our games. So,
and the reality is anybody.
Right.
That's
and my
ridiculous.
whole thing. So, we get that answer. And so I say to my husband, that's not good enough. I'm going to need you to reach out to the city. So he reaches out. You're not done. And then he gets the proverbial no's that come back. And so he steps in at that point and says, listen, I've done all I can do here. You're going to have to deal with her. And I didn't want it to come to that, but I'm sorry. But now she's
superpower weapon.
She's going to take this on.
She's going to drop the hammer.
But here's the crazy thing about it. I'm also a member of the Burlington Accessibility Advisory Committee. And you join those committees to try to make change, to be on the inside, to make those. And I still couldn't get traction. So, and I have friends that work for the city and they couldn't. There was something about this arena and this accessibility piece that was just barriers and walls anyways. So what did I do? I called Christy. And I said, our common friend. And I said, Christy, not okay. And she said, not okay. And so we started a campaign between, she went her channel and I went my channel and I picked at things from an inside, city of Burlington perspective. And here's what's also crazy. I posted on a Facebook group that I moderate and I said, guys, here's what's going on. Do me a favor. Can you go to your local arenas and send me pictures of how they've made it accessible, how they've done things? And I would say within hours, there was parents that were leaving work at lunch to drive to their local arena to take a picture of a structure that had been assembled so that the arena could be accessible.
The power of parents.
Honestly.
And this is where I think this is one of the things that I'm wanting to do is the more we connect, and I think the farther is, but the power of parents. Like it started for you at the beginning in the NICU of that mom that was 2 weeks ahead of you. Yeah. Right. And it's something that until you're a parent, I think it's an intangible. You can't even understand. No. But I know for myself now, say with Andy, and when he has a meltdown or when he's upset, I'm now the parent that when even I'm walking through Walmart and I look at someone and I see and they have a child that is melting down or I see something going on, I promise that every time I will smile at them with love. Yeah. I'll ask them if they're okay. And I'll say something just to reach out. Yeah. I don't know what they're going through.
No idea.
But I've been there. And it's just that we have to keep that going of supporting each other.
We do. Yeah. We do. And so, there was that piece that was amazing. But when I reached out to Christy, what was interesting is Christy looked at it from a very different perspective.
She's so business.
Right. And she looked at it from a perspective of someone who lives with a chronic illness, who, will may be facing a future with mobility issues. A city that she grew up in, a city that she loves, a hockey mom herself. And anyways, so between the two of us with a couple of well-placed tweets and some well-written emails, we secured our ramp. We secured our, at the arena. And it's amazing. And I go there now and you see it being used by moms with kids in strollers because that happens. Yeah. The hockey moms.
Well, and we would use it even like Andy has a service dog.
Right. Standing there.
So depending on how crowded the stands are, it makes it a lot easier. And hockey is one of his favorite things to go and watch. Absolutely. He will ditch his iPad to watch hockey.
Absolutely. And so, and that's what I'd said. I said, this isn't about my son needing to watch my other son play hockey. We do that in a bunch of different arenas. Yep. This is the right thing to do. And at the end of the day, too, you're obligated to do this. This is a human rights issue, and you don't want to go down that path, but it's also just the right thing to do. You shouldn't have to. And thankfully, we didn't go that route, but did those words come up? Sure, they do.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what's cute now is everybody refers to it as, McClain's ramp. It's McClain's ramp.
As it should be.
As it should be. So
because now McClain, he's got VIP privileges. He
100%.
Gets to watch his brother anytime.
Yeah.
And all that just so a brother can support his brother playing a sport he loves. Yeah. Like, why should it be that difficult?
No one else, unless you're in that situation, when you walk into an arena, a venue, a restaurant, you don't worry.
No.
We went to a hockey tournament in the U.S. in October, and we walked, in two of the venues we played at. There was no opportunity for him. Now, you get a couple of strong dads who find a couple of wooden pallets, and next thing you know, you've got a ramp, but that shouldn't be.
But why?
Right.
Because
So
it shouldn't be an issue. And
No.
you guys have that community. But what
Yeah.
about the other person?
Absolutely.
Or what about someone who just wants to come? Not everybody has that
no,
community. Right?
no, they don't. So I'm thankful for the community, but it's, and that's where the tears sometimes, you just, you look at it and think, are you kidding me? Come on, come on. But enough, but yeah.
So grade 7.
Yep.
High school is 2 years away. I don't know if I'm having minor heart palpitations because I know for us, we have an amazing school team.
Right.
We have great relationships with our school team. And it's petrifying for me to have to restart those relationships. Even though they're going to be starting, we're actually going to be starting right after March break.
Yeah.
Start doing some meetings because they know I'm like, don't think you're going to introduce me in grade 8.
Right. Yeah.
But how are you feeling about...
So we've done the same thing. So, I think I started worrying about kindergarten when McClain was born. And then I started worrying about high school when he was in kindergarten. So, it certainly has been something on the horizon.
Even talk about it
I know.
until halfway through.
Isn't that
grade
crazy?
6. Someone brought it up to me once and I was like, stop.
I know. It was, it was a piece that would keep me up at night.
Yeah.
So we've started the transition similar to you. We've started those transition meetings. You don't hear the greatest things sometimes about that that transition to high school. McLean has had to break a couple of molds in our board. I don't know. I'm not. You spoke earlier about how you're optimistic most of the time. I'm actually not the most optimistic person. Christy will tell you that. She has the room full of, the sun will come out tomorrow things, posters and signs. I'm not. I'm not usually
not your natural.
That is not my instinctive reality. But I'm being optimistic on this one. We've had a pretty good go. I feel like we've put a lot of great things in place. He's got some amazing friends that will be there with him.
Yes.
And I know in my heart that I just believe that they will be there for him. I think that he will embrace high school, the social aspect of it, the opportunity that's there for him. Will I worry? Yeah. But do I worry about my older son? Yeah, I do.
High school is petrifying
for everybody. Absolutely. But, I know it's going to be a whole different piece. And I think the part that I worry a little bit more about, I think with him is almost sort of, what happens at that end of high school. Because, usually you go to high school, there's a path. And I don't know for McClain what that path is going to be. So for me, I think he's going to do great at school. I think we'll figure out, credit earning or not, or supports and things like that. He's already told people that he's going to be on the football team. So I'm like, good luck with that.
He will be.
He will be.
And we'll figure out how to have a ramp for him.
Absolutely. And he will host all the parties because he's already said that he's going to need to do that because he can't get into other people's houses. So he's figured that piece out. Nice. But I'm being optimistic. I think I have to be optimistic on this one. I think I have to be. And I'm hoping that the amount of planning that we've done and enough of the relationship building will get us there. We seem to have a pretty good team, but is it terrifying? For sure it is.
Yeah. And it's all new, right?
It's all new. And and I worry, the other part that I worry a lot about too is my older son, they've been in school together all the time. Chase has had a break from McClain, which he doesn't need a break. He adores his brother. But I worry almost about what that impact's going to be on Chase, having his brother back in that school. Is he going to tend to worry more when he sees him? Is he going to, so for me, I'm actually looking at that whole piece. What's that going to look like? Well,
and I know for myself, like Emily, our daughter, she's younger than Andy. Okay. So Andy will go first and he'll find his place and be sorted. And I'm pretty sure, like, she loves making sure that everybody knows Andy's her brother.
Right.
And she still looks at him with these massive, big eyes. And she, especially the dog, she loves the fact that she's the expert.
Of course.
And she always makes sure that everybody knows, because the dog goes to school with Andy.
Yes.
So no one's allowed to touch the dog.
Yeah.
And Emily loves to make sure people know the dog sleeps on my bed at night because Andy doesn't want him there.
Oh, I love it.
Right? So I think we have a different dynamic, but that's fair because we also, though, believe that they have a role. Their life as siblings is different when they have a sibling who has special needs, older or younger.
Yeah.
But one of the things I remember, my mom was a teacher for years, and watching families that she taught and watching their different experiences. And I remember one of the things, the families that I remember growing up, that I still, to this day, I keep those people I think of those moms that I saw, and they're my mentors, whether they know it or not, but that they would really focus on trying to allow each child, as much as they had that closeness, but they had their own identity.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's something that Emily's got her dance.
Yeah.
Right? Like they have to have their own
piece.
identity,
They
but
do.
at the same time, I want them to have a friendship.
Yeah. And I think the other piece that everybody knows McClain, and I say that, not everybody, obviously, but we don't let his disabilities hold us back, as we talked earlier.
Yeah.
We're out everywhere. And a lot of people in Burlington know who he is, and they and so for that, I'm thankful that we have been so involved in the community.
Yes.
And I feel like he's going to get into grade 9. He's going to know this whack ton of grade 11s.
He's going to be totally popular.
Right. And so, they're already fighting over who's going to be his grade 11 mentor when he gets there. And I just, because he's so confident and he's so, gregarious and social. And, I think
That smile.
And a lot of this has just been us making sure that he has been an integral part of the community. People know who he is. We don't hide him in the shadows.
No.
He's he's front and center. And I think that will do him well, as well when he gets into high school, because, these kids know who he is. This is Chase's little brother, but they've just known him for so many years. And he's already asking, girls to the prom. So I think he'll be fine.
Wow. I love it. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Let's talk just before we finish up about Chronically Simple
Yeah.
and what it is, because we'll have Christy on to talk a little bit more, and what your role is and how we're going to change the world again.
So, I won't get it right because Christy's, she's got the spiel down pat. And, she definitely is more of the business person between the two of us. But, I think it's a game changer. You can attest to it. I can attest to it. I look at the first few years of McClain's life and I look at how, overwhelmed I was with the appointments and the records and all that kind of thing. And Chronically Simple offers a way for parents, patients, caregivers to manage that burden. And I'm going to say it. It is a burden.
It is a burden.
It's a necessity,
So,
but it's a burden.
Just explain. Chronically Simple is an app.
It's an app,
that has been created, but
Right.
the biggest game changer is it's been created from the patient or the
Caregiver
caregiver's
perspective.
point of view.
Yes.
And the idea is, I know for me, I had 5 binders on the go for Andy, and I used to take them to all of my appointments,
Absolutely.
no matter what.
Yep.
And it never failed that someone would say, "Oh, I don't have that report."
Yep.
"Oh, I don't have this." And I would say, "But I do."
I got it.
And so now the difference is all of that information will be loaded up on an app.
Yep.
Test results, reports, appointments,
Yep.
contacts, medication.
Yep.
And then I know that for myself, I wish I had it with my mom at the right time. But not only do you have an account,
You can
but
share
your
it.
husband can have
Absolutely.
an account. Or if McClain ever has a caregiver that takes them to appointments, that they have access to it as well.
Absolutely. It's a shareable piece, which is awesome. So you create your team that's going to have access to that information. So again, like you said, whether that could be a PSW, it could be a best friend, it could be a parent, it could be whoever.
Sibling. Absolutely.
Or, Christy and I have talked a lot about, that transitional piece for, kids who are transitioning into adulthood. It's a whole different world, but, they now might have a better way of managing their journey and their medical records and all of the stuff that comes with it, with an app that has been set up previously.
Yes, with the history.
And, it still happens. I go into an appointment at any given time if McLean ends up in the ER, and you tell the story over and over and over and over and over again. So, it's an app that's been created. It's interesting because, Christy will tell it much better than I do. She looked at things from a certain perspective. I looked at things from another perspective. And so, what was important to her wasn't always what was important to me as a caregiver.
I remember her talking about, for her, it was so important, the medical side.
Yeah.
And you talked a lot about that there's more beyond just the medical, right?
And we adjusted the app to include things like tracking expenses and creating this care team and things like that. So it's an incredible product. I do think it's a game changer. I think people can greatly benefit from it. I just think it's going to make things easier for people, like you said.
It's the beginning of an incredible,
I really do.
Wave.
Yeah, it's the binders have to go. We don't need them anymore.
They're heavy.
They really are heavy, and everything's there. And again, it's shareable. And
it's a really big mom purse I have to carry around just for those binders.
And think about how easy it is to just take a picture
yeah.
of your results of something, upload it, and then you've got that. You've got
Absolutely.
it to share. You've got it to access, even for your own.
Well, I mean, we wait so long for these appointments.
Yeah.
Now there's no delay because you can actually continue the appointment with full information.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Right,
and
so no one's time is wasted.
No one's time is wasted. You've got your list of questions. You've got everything tied in. So yeah, it's definitely been a labor of love.
Well, and at the end of the day, the only person who takes your case as seriously or have the importance as you feel to it is you.
Yeah.
So it's not the responsibility. Like, as much as we like the idea that a system works, that everybody shares information, we know it's broken. They don't all speak to each other.
Nope, siloed.
Absolutely. So then that's where we have to put that care and that advocacy back in the patient's hands.
Yeah. It's that empowerment piece.
Absolutely.
Right.
All right. Brenda, I want to thank you.
Thank you.
I can't believe we didn't know each other in person before in real life.
I know.
I think you say that you're not optimistic as your nature, but I think you're more analytical than not optimistic.
Maybe.
Because you keep getting up and you keep moving forward. So I really appreciate you. I know that you are changing lives around you, probably more than you even know.
Thank you.
And I thank you so much for being on here today.
And thank you for doing this, because it's going to be an extremely powerful resource for people to hear these stories and to share these stories and to learn from them. So thanks for you for doing this.
I feel like I might even be the lucky one for all these new people I get to just bring in and have even more in our life. And so now I have this tool that every time I want to get to know someone better or know something more, I now have a way to bring them in, and then other people get to learn with me.
For sure.
All right.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Friends, that's all for today. I want to sincerely thank you for listening to my podcast, Happy and Independent, Empowering Special Needs Parents. This podcast was recorded at Wilfrid Laurier's The Switch Podcast Studio. It's quickly becoming my home away from home. And I want to thank the lovely and knowledgeable Avery Moore-Kloss from Folktale Studios for her mad editing brilliance. She makes me sound good. If you haven't shared, subscribed, or reviewed my podcast yet, please do so. I promise I read every single one. And the more you share and subscribe, the farther my mission goes to change the world, one confident advocate at a time. See you next week.